So you're a digital nomad, expat, or US resident living abroad, and you want to keep your bank account open here in America. Well, the bad news is that the US Patriot Act makes life pretty difficult for people like us when it comes to banking. But the good news is that there are several workarounds that you can employ. This video will walk you through the steps that you need to take to keep your US bank account open and active while you're traveling abroad. We will also review some alternatives that you can use in case you face an account freeze or have difficulty opening a bank account. Let's dive in. As a US digital nomad or expat, you need to be aware of the Patriot Act and what that means for you when it comes to banking. Among other things, the Patriot Act requires banks to verify account holders' physical addresses here in the US. Now, in the past, many nomads and expats used traditional mail forwarding services or even PO boxes, but banks no longer accept those as substitutes for a residential address in most cases. The problem is that most of these virtual mailboxes are classified as commercial mail receiving agencies, or CMRAs. This is much different from a residential address, and while a CMRA can be useful for receiving regular mail, it isn't going to be sufficient for financial purposes. More recently, US banks and financial institutions like Robinhood have really cracked down on people trying to circumvent the residential address requirements. A lot of nomads and expats have had their bank accounts frozen or even shut down entirely because they can't prove that they have a physical presence here in the US. What we're getting at here is that if you want to maintain your bank account and do it in the most safe and secure way, then you're going to need a physical residential address here in the States. Now, one option is to use the address of a trusted family member or friend, and a lot of people do this, and in many cases, it'll probably work just fine, but keep in mind that if the address of your friend or family member doesn't match the one that's on your state ID, then banks will probably ask you for proof of residency like a lease or a utility bill. And that's going to be difficult to produce if you aren't actually a tenant, so be sure to keep that in mind. Now, the other option, and in many cases the better option, is to use a domicile service like Savvy Nomad. We provide a valid, real residential street address for nomads and expats, which is much less risky than using a commercial mailbox. Domicile Premium package also includes a lease agreement and utility bill that you can show to banks for further verification. Now, as an added bonus, and you can watch our other videos if you want to learn more, this address can allow you to claim residency in Florida, which is crucial for reducing your state income tax burden. So check out the link in the video description and use the code YouTube for 15% off. Now, all of this sounds like a big hassle, but overall, it's a good idea to maintain your bank account here in the US. Makes it easier to get paid if you're earning a salary remotely from a US company. It makes it easier to get paid if you're a freelancer. And you also have an easier time paying bills, managing loans, opening credit cards, things like that. Keeping your US bank account open is also critical for maintaining a US credit score, which, if you ever decide to come back and live here, is going to be pretty important. A US bank account also simplifies tax filing since the IRS deposits refunds and the government deposits Social Security checks directly into a US bank account. Now, if none of those options work for you, you still have a few alternatives. They're not as good, but you still have them. One is to get into offshore banking. Some popular options for US expats include accounts in Switzerland, Panama, and Singapore. Now, the problem is that banks in those countries often won't accept US citizens as customers, but you'll have to inquire with the banks individually to see if you qualify. You can also open an international account at a traditional US bank. Some banks like Charles Schwab offer a separate type of account for their overseas customers. So again, make sure you inquire and see if you are eligible in the country you are living in currently. Remember, if you do decide to open a foreign bank account, you're going to need to fill out your FACTA and FBAR filings every year to stay compliant with the IRS. Finally, many nomads and expats use fintech platforms like Wise or Revolut. While these online banks can be useful for managing funds in the short term, again, many nomads and expats have faced account freezes and closures recently. So it comes back to the same problem that we've been discussing in this video of not having a valid US residential address. So keep that in mind. So here's the quick summary. Patriot Act requires a real US residential address. PO boxes, virtual mailboxes, they're not going to cut it. Using a friend or family member's address can work, but banks may ask for proof of residency like a lease or utility bill. At the end of the day, services like Savvy Nomad provide valid residential addresses that are safer for banking and can even help you establish Florida residency for tax benefits. Check out the link in the video description. Use the code YouTube 15% off. With the right strategy in place, you could stay financially connected in the US no matter where you are in the world. So if you enjoyed that video, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. We're always putting out new content for digital nomads and expats regarding tax strategy and banking. So make sure you get on that. See you in the next video.